What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Mewzings podcast studio, and I am joined today by a gentleman who's a little bit of a madman, taking on all the tasks himself, writing, drawing, managing a Kickstarter. This madman is Travis Hymel. How you doing today, Travis?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, when people ask me like, why do you want to work in comics? It's like, I usually say, because I hate myself. We could say the same thing about your writer and artist on the book.
True. Yeah, that's quite the tall order. Now, how did this all come to be? Where did this love of art and comics start for you?
It was just fostered by just my parents. Probably more my mom than my dad, but because I'm from the generation where you could still get comics at grocery stores.
Yeah.
So we had literally at the corner of our street there was a small supermarket, and we would go and get like DC. It was mostly DC comics for some reason on the spinner rack there. So a bunch of like Action Comics and Superman. Still have some stuff that's all taped together with Scotch tape. Some of those books. Yeah, and I actually even remember the first time I actually had bags and boards was because my mom ordered, again, probably another generation of things for like Sears, but like ordered like a collector set where you can get your bags and boards in and actually DC Comics as well, like reprints
right.
of some DC Comics. So that started me down the path, and then like art wise, I just have a clear memory of watching the Incredible Hulk TV show, the Bill Bixby TV show, and being obsessed with that for some reason. And I would get my dad to draw because of anyone in my family, my dad was the only one who had artistic talent. And I guess he got tired of him, like me, making him draw, so eventually showed me how to do stuff. So I have like little notebooks and stuff. I actually have some around. My mom keeps everything. My mom keeps everything. And so like every now and then when I go back home and visit, like I come back with old sketchbooks and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was my mom. She was the one with the little bit of the artistic ability.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember asking her to draw stuff for me and just couldn't wrap my head around how she was able to do it. And then it got me down that path of wanting to learn how to do it myself.
Yeah. It's a cool thing, though, being amazed. It's like, oh, my God, how are you doing this?
Yeah. It seemed like magic, honestly. Yeah. Just like, how can you imagine this thing and then put it out on paper and have it look so cool,
Yeah. And that's, I was trying to, I guess, emulate, imitate what my dad was doing. And, I do kind of recall, like, really just trying to even copy what he was doing. And then, as time went on, more like comic book cartoon shows, and I was getting more comics. So I was then trying to crudely piece together like stories and stuff like that. Sometimes it was like one page in notebooks. It wasn't like panels or anything. It was just like one page in notebooks. But I was always like obsessed in I guess as a kid, you're asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, oh, I could just do this as a job, right? Because my mom would encourage that, but a lot of parents who don't know anything about the industry, they're just like, yeah, sure, yeah, you could totally get a job and do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of had that in mind, like going forward until probably about high school, college age. I kind of fell out and was like, oh, I want to do art, but I don't know what to do, and eventually went on a graphic design path.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like what a lot of us creative people did, when we start to realize that maybe I have to, quote unquote, look for a real job and all of that.
Yeah.
And you're going to school. And I went the same path. I did like digital design, web design, graphic design, all of that type of stuff. Yeah. And definitely learned a lot from dabbling in all those different areas. But the love of comics and comic art is what I always came back to. And it seems like that's where you ended up back at.
Yeah. But going back, you were talking about for you and learn, going that a design path. I personally find working in different, we're trying to wear different hats makes you kind of a stronger, whatever, medium, as an artist you want to work in. you have a little bit more understanding. So I appreciate hearing that too, because it's like,
sure.
that's what I feel like, little things that you pick up along the way. Like, for instance, like in graphic design, one of the things that I always stuck with, during a job, was this older gentleman, came by and was like, "Hey, what's the most important thing, for when you're designing stuff for our shop?" And I was like, I don't know. He's like, "You have to think the project all the way through, and I didn't really click, but now it clicks together for a lot of stuff, So like, for instance, in the comics world, like thinking about your format, how your presentation, your book's going to be, black and white color, like understanding all those things really enhances the full product. Even me, I'm not a great letterer. I'm not lettering Start Your Engines, but I at least have a little bit more of an understanding, because I did, like, when I first started out doing stuff as a hobby, when you're doing stuff as a hobby, sometimes if you're just working with a writer, it's like, well, either you can letter or I can try to letter it. So someone's just trying to do it. And I was trying to figure out and learn.
Yeah.
I'm not a great letterer, but at least I know now to leave more room for, like, the dialogue for the balloons and everything. Because one of the first things that I learned when I was doing an anthology, I wasn't leaving any space for word balloons, so you learn trial and error.
Yeah, because then you run into, they're having to choose where to put them, and they may end up having to cover a piece of art that you worked pretty diligently on, putting all this detail and stuff in there, and then got a word balloon covering a little piece of it.
Yeah, that's one of the things you just learn as you go. And now that I really do kind of like learn it. So, like, going back to what I was saying about you, having that background, it helps you like kind of appreciate and understand all those little jobs that you would have on a creative team.
Absolutely. Now, when you were going to school, were you seeking out any formal art training along with that?
Well, I mean, in college, it was very like, if you weren't been formal, like it was very much like formal, like a painting path or illustration. There was digital, which was like the design path. Sculpture, they actually make you do a little bit of everything, so you kind of have some background at all. Like printmaking too was kind of helpful, which I don't know how much people like know about printmaking, but I think more that for like screen printing shirts and stuff. So that kind of was like helpful to learn that when I was doing like graphic design.
Yeah. And were you taking any kind of drawing courses or doing any life drawing to try to build that foundation?
I was, but I mentioned I was naive about certain things. I was naive in like picking up or really listening, why those foundations are important.
Yeah.
I could draw. Why do I have to know all this? Like, it looks fine. It's just me with, like, again, being naive and not just like really listening and really thinking about why that all matters and putting it all together.
So when did the realization hit you as to why that's also important?
It was probably when I started doing comics more of a hobby, like, oh man, it's probably more than 10 years ago. It's about around 2013. And I was going back, and I have a very old How to Draw the Marble Way.
Yep.
And it's one of my go-tos, or, when I think everyone recommends it, a lot of creators would recommend that book. But what going back and looking at it, it's the best presentation and run through of the basics of doing comic book art and learning stuff as artists as you go along in the chapters. Because they start out with the very basics, like your perspective, drawing shapes and forms, and not just going to, drawing cool superheroes.
Yes.
Foundation before innovation, kind of thing. You have your founding parts that you need to learn. And like what you were asking, when did I finally click? It clicked when I was starting, like, there's perspective in every panel, for instance. Objects are constantly moving at different camera angles. And I have to understand that to really make that composition come to life for each panel.
Yeah.
That's why I think like that book is so great. Like I said, perspective, it goes with shape and form, character design to facial expressions, and then eventually it goes all the way from panel comps to covers, from A to Z, in my opinion. for everything. So when I was going back, I kind of realized, I was like, oh, yeah, all that stuff really is foundational and really just.
Yeah, it's funny, Ryan Benjamin's helped me a lot with my work, and he always harps on that, fundamentals, man. If it doesn't look right, take it down to the primitives, look at it. Like, you got to fix it in that stage. Otherwise, the finished drawing's not going to look right.
I probably know the answer, Ray, but if you get in portfolio reviews, there's probably like two things you always hear. And what I always heard, maybe you heard the same, is, oh, you need to work on your anatomy and perspective.
Always.
When I was just starting out, foundation,
Yeah, understanding perspective. Like, a lot of times when people hear somebody tell them they need to work on perspective, they might like jump to the conclusion they're talking about drawing buildings and all of this, but perspective is in everything. Like, to be able to make a figure look like it's in the environment, you have to understand proper perspective. But I think, perspective especially gets a bum rap because we automatically think architecture and all of this, and we want to draw cool superheroes. And it's like, well, I don't want to mess with that. And then you realize it's like the better you understand that, the better your figures start to look too.
Well, perspective kind of lends to composition. And for me to make things like more fun, instead of just thinking about perspective, I think about it as a camera operator. A lot of creators do that, but like I get a lot of, mostly from the library, but different cinematography books. And there's perspective in these examples, but like that perspective helps you understand your shot composition too. The way you're blocking and putting things in there, so you have a depth of field, and then you kind of see why every little bit of like that composition is important. The perspective is important. How it plays with that.
Yeah, especially in sequential storytelling.
Yeah,
it's
because as soon as you mess with your camera angle, if you start doing that, you're moving your horizon lines around. Then you're doing different types of perspective. That's all going to shift on how you're using your camera.
Yes. And those are all tricks on how to guide the viewer's eye through the page the way you want them to read and all this stuff. So yeah, it's crucial. So rewinding a little bit, you said around 2013 was when you started to delve back into comics as a hobby and started kind of producing some comics. So tell me a little bit about that.
It was with a writer named Jeremy Thomas, and it was an anthology called Memoirs of the Mysterious. Very, very much like an EC Comics type of deal. And it was started by, originally I'm from Louisiana, around the New Orleans area, and I belonged to a drink and draw group, and someone in there was spearheading the anthology. So I started going to these meetings, and I kind of wanted to try it and just to do it. So I got matched up with Jeremy, and I did probably, if Jeremy somehow ends up watching this, apologies to Jeremy, because I think I butchered. I really did. I think I butchered it. I just wasn't ready. That was the one I was just talking about, where I didn't really leave a lot for balloons. I was even lettering it, which I actually just went back. I have it downstairs in my basement somewhere and found it. And I could barely look at it. I don't like looking at old work a lot of times, because then I cringe. Every now and then I'm like, oh, that's not bad. But maybe you feel that way for some of your work.
100%. My wife just brought up, we're cleaning, we're getting ready for a garage sale, and she found this in our storage room, and she's like, you should redo some of those. Like, and I'm looking at it, like, I'm afraid to even show it. I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, no. And she's like, yeah, but if you redo it with your current skill set, you can really see your progression. I'm like, oh, that's actually a pretty good point.
And I understand that. And that is a positive thing, but it's hard to want to go back to it. Well, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I would feel that.
It makes me cringe, even the thought.
Yeah. Well, even like to go back, like maybe it's similar to going through that binder when I was going through, I was like, oh man, I did this story no justice, But I learned, like I mentioned earlier, you learn from doing it. So I actually worked with Jeremy again for another short, and I definitely learned more after that. But yeah, that was my first one. It was 2013, and I started doing little anthologies, almost one a year, like one or two a year, mostly as a hobby. I was still like drawing and stuff because I had, my day job. I was working, and actually though, going back to the anthologies, that's how I probably got started to get paid work. I did an anthology back in 2016, 2017. I can't remember the year, but the writer involved wanted to turn that into something, and we turned that into a Kickstarter. I don't really want to talk about it too much about the book because it was kind of the sore subject.
No
but
worries.
I brought it up. But but because of that though, it was a wrestling themed book. So some editor at Devil's Due, one of the people involved was like, "Oh, this guy drew wrestling stuff. You want to do an anthology?" It was like, AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, like an anthology.
Okay.
It was a wrestling themed story.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not a big political person or like a satire thing isn't my thing either. But they, when you offer money, things change. And you know what? In the hindsight of it, it was fun and it was a good networking opportunity as well. Because now, Josh Blaylock, who owns Devil's Due, I talk to him regularly as well. Well, not regularly, more every now and then. But I ended up working with him more, probably right before the pandemic and during the pandemic, doing stuff for Devil's Due and working on his creator-owned book, Arc World. And that led to me working on Trailer Park Boys. He got the license to work on Trailer Park Boys. If people aren't familiar with that, because it seems like that is a niche audience.
Right.
Canada and the U.S. has its audience, but that was my first like license thing of working on some stories and a bunch of covers for that.
That's really cool how the work and the connection in the anthologies and starting out as just kind of a fun, hobby and learning experience started leading to these paid gigs for you. What's your first big paid gig that really stands out for you?
It was doing Turtles covers.
Yeah.
I did some for the Saturday Morning Adventures line. And that was more of a surreal thing because I'm as you could see in the background, especially if we use the video, you can see some turtles.
I was gonna say you don't like the turtles at all.
Yeah. Well, I have a combination of Toy Biz, X-Men, but before people's like, I'm gonna disappoint some people. That is like the reproduction stuff. I couldn't afford. I couldn't afford like the actual real Playmates.
That's also a reproduction. Optimus Prime, yeah.
But they're cool.
To be fair,
it's great.
I do have the original. He's just very beat up.
Yeah.
And he's missing some pieces. But I wanted a quote unquote new in box looking one, so I bought a replica.
No, I hear actually. Well, the giant Donatello, that was a present to myself for doing a cover. It was like just something I had an excuse to buy that giant Donatello reproduction.
That's awesome.
But I had some, but it's all beat up though. But I was like, I kind of want something for the shelf. But that was my big thing. Like I was very excited. I didn't know, a lot of that when you're doing like covers or get an opportunity to do a variant cover. And I'm not just talking about in particular IDW, but if you're a creator and you happen to get like that one cover get cool, you never know if it's going to lead to more. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's just like every gig, but you never know. And luckily I had more covers, a few, like 3 more after that ended up doing, which was cool, but it's like, it was unexpected. And really like a cool experience overall. Cause each one I got to do something a little different and got to play around. One of the ones, the third one I did was like, I was like, well, I really don't know if I'm going to be doing anything else. So I'm going to put as many Easter eggs as I can. So like, it's actually, Mr. Og, who's like a Mr. Mixelpick kind of character. And, he's like, I was like, well, what if he's like turns the turtles into like the Playmates toys and he's like playing around with them. So like, I'm even like holding my original, like, my playmates, the original. I figures everywhere like a child. Everywhere. But I was like looking at the seams and trying to match the seams.
That's cool.
On there. I put in the van. I have a poster in there that was supposed to be the Japanese cover for the Famicom NES. Here, the Famicom title. It was that box art, but I even put like the Japanese logo, but in the editorial round. So what's different about working with a license? You're not just working with just one editor. Sometimes you're working with like 2 or 3 more editors. So like editor, cool, fine, looks great. And they hand it up to Nickelodeon. I was like, oh, we can't use the Japanese one. You can erase that and put in the regular one, but you can't use the Famicom. Which was a bit odd.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't understand. No one's really going to notice it probably, but that's what it is when, no pun intended, you're playing with someone else's toys.
Yeah.
And that kind of probably led me, that interaction was probably one of the ones that kind of led me to want to just like pursue doing my own creator-owned thing in general, because, Start Your Engines, that's my toy. That's my thing. I set the rules because when you work on licensing, I started working on more and more licensed products over the last couple of years. And it's really cool and fun. And maybe a lot of creators are like, oh, I'd kill to do that. And they're right. It is. But sometimes the fun's taking out of it for me, because you might have a cool idea, but it's not going to fly because it just doesn't meet either what they want or what you can do with that product.
Yeah.
For instance, I mentioned even like on that cover with doing the Playmate stuff, I mentioned in my pitch for the cover and the thumbnail that they were going to look like Playmates toys. Like, they can't look exactly just like the Playmates toys. They say you can't have the same facial expressions. They have to have their eyes. Like, they can't look like the Playmates toys at all. Like, well, not at all. Like, different enough. Maybe I can't remember. It was at least a couple of years. I can't remember the exact
different
phrase.
Enough to fall under the caricature section of copyright or something.
Yeah, and I don't know. And it's something, it might be something to do with the deal between the property between Nickelodeon and Playmates at the time. No clue.
Right.
It doesn't really matter. I could ask, but they're probably like, who cares? Just finish the cover, please. But that's just but that did push me towards Start Your Engines for sure.
Yeah, cool to play with somebody else's toys, but definitely more restrictive in nature when it comes to having creative freedom, I suppose.
Yeah, like I really could just pick exactly the type of stories I want to do in the format. To keep going backwards here, but I mentioned like thinking the product, they're thinking the project all the way through. One of the things I was thinking about, so I want to do my own thing. How do I want to present it for someone to read? And one of the things I kind of came away with was I really wanted to do not wanted like a one shot, but I wanted to do where the story is just wrapped up in one book.
Right.
So like Start Your Engines has 2 stories in it. I kind of felt like when I was backing Kickstarters, and I still like backing Kickstarters that might be like issue 1 of whatever. I've kind of gone away from backing, every issue of that. Sometimes I just jump on the first one, and I hate to say I'm trade waiting for Kickstarters, but the amount of shipping and everything just to finish that line, and that's one thing. Which it wouldn't be mad, if it was just one and done, like a new story every time. That's one thing. But I would even forget what was going on for these Kickstarters between issue 1 and 2.
Yep.
It's not a huge problem. I could reread it. That's fine. That's probably even better for the creator in the creator sense. You make sure you go back and reread it. But I wanted to make things like easy for the reader, and so they can understand and jump on board quickly. And then when I do plan on doing another book, but when I do that, you kind of maybe have a quick little catch up, maybe in the front cover is what I was thinking. and just go right into the story. And then it's going to end there. You're not waiting another year to find out what happened in that conclusion, or 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I totally feel you on that. I'm the same way with Kickstarters. It's tough. Plus, just it's a lot of money.
Yeah, and no shade on anyone else. It's just that's the nature of the beast, you know? Yeah. And I'm thinking of how I want to present it to people. And that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a prestige format. You know, I'm going to have those 2 stories. And 2 stories, like, you know, I want to do a full racing one. Couple of the inspirations for Start Your Engines kind of come from like Alex Toth, some Hot Wheels comics. There's Bravo for Adventure he did. But I really like some of the older Hot Wheels books that you can't find any in print. You can occasionally find it like online, you know, some even like the strips like that Alex Toth would draw, like some racing stuff. I can't think of any names off the top of my head, but they're really cool. They're fun. And I was like, I want to do a racing one. And I'm also a big fan of like Mark Schultz, Xenozoic Tales, Calyx, and Dinosaurs. And I was like, you know what? I like drawing like monsters and dinosaurs. I want to do that. So the second story is going to have like a dinosaur adventure kind of vibe. Cool. You know, and it's very Saturday morning cartoon show. You can kind of, you know, get the vibe, you know, from what we've been talking about. That's kind of like in my wheelhouse.
Now, is this your first foray into Kickstarter?
My first foray into Kickstarter, at least that I'm putting on. I've been involved in another one, but more like, you know, I'm just the artist on the book and I'm helping promote it. But in terms of like creator-owned book, actually, bear with me for a second. I'll grab it. Hold on.
No worries. We always love having stuff to show on the video here.
And so all the noise and everything.
It's fine.
Edit it all out. No,
no way. We're keeping it real, man.
Yeah, at least I didn't like bend down and like there's like a plumber's crack.
I would have edited that. I would have put a little black bar.
Or if that's what the viewers want.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, and I'm sure not. But actually, my first creator-owned thing was this in I can't even remember, 2014, 2015, something like that. What did I put in my copyright? 2015, Boogie Brigade. It was about kids who fight boogie monsters at night. It's just this one issue.
Nice.
And again, something I learned on this book, especially I mentioned formatting earlier. I think I did like 25 pages and I should have done a number divisible by 4 for a floppy. So, that sounds wrong, but like a regular book.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. I kind of pitched it around to like you know, smaller indie publishers, but I kind of just left it because I think I could have done better. Like in the hindsight of things, there's a lot. Even going through this, I'm cringing, as we were talking about earlier. Right. Like it's kids fighting boogie monsters at night, and I've showed this in like an Instagram video fairly recently, actually. But like, I drew these kids, they're like in a danger room thing, but these kids are like super jacked. I was like, what am I doing?
Look at that.
I was like, what? Yeah. I was like, what am I doing? You can't even tell they're kids, but it's weird. And also the pacing is wrong. It's just not enough to keep a reader engaged too. Like there is maybe a good enough start to it, but after that, it's kind of like blah, blah, blah. I'm making fun of myself here. It's just a lot of talking. I'm trying to world build too much. And I kind of just took those lessons and kind of like, you know what, maybe I'll come back to this, which I do plan on doing something. They're going to be far less jacked, wherever I plan. But, and maybe that was because I was trying to emulate a couple styles at the time, like between like Ryan Otley and maybe, Tradd Moore draws different today than he drew when I was like starting to get his work, which was on Luther Strode.
Yeah, and very different.
Very different. Well, it's different because it's way more organic.
The seeds of what he became are there, but it's it's definitely changed. And you're speaking my language with Ryan Otley, so maybe we'll give you a creative pass on the jacked kids. Yeah.
Well, it's just like, I was like, I'm thinking like, because they're also wearing like a, kind of a superhero-esque like suit kind of thing. And I was probably No, there's not probably. I was definitely probably going through my trade paperbacks or single issues and looking at like different things of how he would draw Invincible.
Yeah.
I loved, I still love Invincible, but that was my favorite book, one of my favorite books at the time. So probably that's what, made me kind of go to that super
heavily
jack
influenced.
Yeah, well, funny enough, and I don't even know if it was because of Otley, because like as Invincible went, it got way more bloody, and I don't have it anywhere on my computer, or otherwise I would show you. But like I remember doing original sketches, and it was gonna be like actually more of a bloody thing, like destroying these boogie monsters. Like I had to I thought it was so cool. I was like they're getting them blown up, and the special effects were spelled out in blood.
Nice.
I was like, oh man, that's gonna be so cool. And someone was like, you know what, this could work, like for maybe like not all ages, but like, it could work for younger kids, kind of thing, like maybe not have the blood. And so I was like, you know what, sure, why not? And I tried it without, which I definitely would not go back. I am now more in the mind, like start your engines. I would give it a rating like PG. I wanted something for my table at shows, or when I finally get off my behind and have my own site, like or like a web store, to have something that maybe not necessarily all ages, like but something you could feel comfortable sharing with anyone. Like it's this is definitely gravitating towards older comic book fans. There's a lot of nostalgia there. There's this is Johnny Quest meets Speed Racer,
very cool
kind of vibe. But I wanted to be like, I was like, oh, my niece, nephew, neighbor, friend, they might want to check this out. I want to just kind of make it feel like you could do like the old school thing and just share it. You go to school, I was like, oh, you want to trade books or you want to check something out? Here, borrow this. I wanted that thing. If that happens, that would make me so happy. But that was one of the ideas.
That would be cool. Did you have an opportunity between, back when you did the first one there and now you're on Start Your Engines, did you get more gigs where you were working more on sequential stories so you could get kind of some of the legwork in and, work out some of those kinks prior to this? Or were you doing a lot of cover work in between then and now?
Well, for that, like in between that, it was still like doing like the anthology stuff.
Okay.
But I was still learning on every single book that was going through, and it was more that it's still in the hobby phase. I would love, I think there was a thing even then when I was making that, I was like, oh, if this gets picked up, maybe I could do that, or not really understanding probably how the business was. It was, again, it makes me sound really naive as I was talking about it earlier. But, now I have a much more better understanding of the industry. And, it's like, as far as like, wanting to back then, wanting to work in the industry was definitely a dream. But I was making, good money doing graphic design and going through that. And that was at that time, I think it was still pretty focused on that. But it wasn't until like right around like 2019, 2020, it started becoming more, I was actually getting paid, really that paid work. And then of course COVID hit, and then I lost a bunch of gigs that was I felt like give me momentum.
Right.
I feel like I do kind of relate with stuff to pro wrestling. I feel like this like wrestler who wants to like break in, and he's like, he's in his 30s and his health isn't the best. He's not like the young 20 something, who could take the punishment. Yeah. So like, I was also kind of weirdly worried about that. Going after COVID, I started getting more paid work, and it started like around 2020, I want to say 23 or something like that. I started doing the TMNT covers. And actually, the Trailer Park Boys was literally right before that. And all that kind of helped. And it what it really is having recognizable names to talk about in your resume, it does help.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons, like, people stop by my table at conventions, they'll see Turtle stuff. it is definitely a lot harder. And I think a lot of maybe indie creators who haven't had the opportunity yet to work on that, they recognize that, you have to work, I think of like, I have my buddy Dave Dwanch, and I'll talk more about him in a second because he edited Start Your Engines, but we always table next to each other at shows. And, he has a lot of his own projects, his own creator-owned work. And I feel like he works so hard and he, to even engage the customer and get them to buy in versus me, I'm just like, maybe sketching or drawing away. It's like, Ninja Turtles, he definitely, a lot of the creators have it, to do a lot more work than I did, but that definitely helps. And that helps me, network and get more work. But at the end of the day, I was kind of like, I was going through, not to like bring everything down, but like I was a little depressed, like around 2024. And that's kind of was like, it's like, well, what do I want? Like I wasn't getting any gigs. It was getting a little quiet around that time and was getting kind of depressed because I was just being like, I'm full time now. What do I do? And one of the things is like, well, I can always do my own creator own thing. I kind of forget, like, what do I want out of my career? Do I want to keep worrying about getting those paid gigs, or do I want to have my own brand as well? The ultimate answer is why not both? Work in both. If you can, that's the best route, and that's not always available for everyone. But that was what I had. So I had started Start Your Engines actually in 2024, and kind of, it was a weird thing. I think I mentioned this either before we were recording, but like right when I was getting depressed and everything, like weird thing happened where I got a random email from Phil Hester, see if I wanted to do a test page for inks, for a project. And that ultimately I didn't work on that project, but he kept in touch with me and we ended up working that like maybe a couple months later, for an EC short story. It was when they were just doing, just starting out. Oni Press just got the license.
Right. And
they were doing, it was Epitaphs of the Abyss. And we did a short, and like that kind of helped. But then, now, fast forward today, I'm working on 2 different projects with him right now. One's about to start up. I literally have to do some more inking for him this week, for another project. And I can't really talk about those too much in depth because they haven't been announced.
Yeah.
But that kind of like, took me out of a funk. And then also I also ended up getting work with Dark Horse to draw the Whitestone Chronicles.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was a fun thing. But in between, like, I had a lot of deadlines, but then I kind of like left Start Your Engines. And I didn't get in the same funk at all. But I was like, what? I have to, in between these gigs, I had to pick a way and make this creator-owned book. I have to do that. I can't just keep worrying about that. I need to have more to my repertoire, my resume, whatever you want to call it. And I'm still very passionate about getting this picked up. And also fun. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it was like a random thing happened too. I actually had taken some samples of Start Your Engines, and I had showed the Mad Cave editor. And he's like, "Oh, these are very interesting," And not too long after that, he's like, because he was like, I can't tell you what it is, but it's something very similar. That's gonna be coming out very we just got this license, but I can't tell you what it is. And in my head, I'm like, it's Speed Racer, isn't it? You didn't mention it. You can't tell. You can't tell anyone. Like NDAs and stuff. But sure enough, that's exactly what it was. And because I met the editor, I ended up doing a short story for one of the Speed Racer books. Like
cool.
that was the end of last year. I started that, and it came out in I think January. But that was kind of like a cool thing, So, in between these gigs, I picked away at working and Start Your Engines, and it kind of helped me kind of solidify what I want to do as a creator.
Yeah, it sounds like it led to everything kind of led in this direction. And now you're at a point where you're going all in with it. So for
Yeah.
the Start Your Engines Kickstarter, how long is the campaign running?
The campaign should, well, I should have my cheat sheet here, but
Yeah.
I have it set, I believe, for 30 days right now. It shows me looking off screens because I do have my stuff right here. But I believe we have it set at 30 days. And when I say me and my editor, Dave Dwanch.
And is it starting soon? Is
Yeah.
it already started?
So it's gonna start July 14th.
Okay, perfect.
It's gonna be all set to go. The campaign right now is in pre-launch. I'm not sure when you're releasing it, but either way,
I'm gonna time it to release this right around the time it's going live.
Okay.
So
Well, either way, people could search Kickstarter and go to Start Your Engines, search Start Your Engines on Kickstarter, be able to find it that way. You could also find it on my, any of my social media pages. We could talk those links later, but it's gonna be a 30-day campaign. I have tons of cool tiers besides just like the physical book. I'm probably gonna show it, not maybe the start of next week, but towards the end, kind of like to ramp up some interest. I have my own aid cover that I did. I will also have a Kickstarter exclusive variant by Greg and Fate, Santos Sisters fame. And, it's really cool to work with them because I started to see their work, like Santos Sisters and stuff. They actually worked a lot with Josh Blaylock at Devil's do a lot of color, and they colored a bunch of my work, and they love retro stuff too. And I could tell because I did a Hot Wheels, a DC Hot Wheels homage, like Alex Toth homage for one of the Trailer Park Boys covers, and they colored it and they nailed it.
Oh, sweet.
It was like perfect. And then so when I'm seeing, I only knew them, to be honest, as a coloring like a duo. And then I was like, oh, that's like they have their own book, and it's taken off. I have my own hardcover and several of the other books because I'm also a sucker for newsprint, and they were releasing their books in newsprint. And originally, I was actually even thinking of doing my books in newsprint as well, but I kind of abandoned that, and that was probably thanks to Greg of Greg and Fake. Because you would really have to change your coloring style, and I'm coloring it, and you have to watch how much saturation of each color. Otherwise, your paper's going to curl or be too muddy, etc.
Yeah, it changes things a lot. A lot of people don't realize that. Yeah. So how many, as you said, there are going to be like 2 stories in it. About how many pages are you looking at with this one?
48 pages of story. 48 pages of story. 2 24-page stories are in it. I'm also going to have some back matter. I have a cool, I'm going to show it, probably reveal it next week. But I have a cool pinup from Raymar Brunson.
Oh, and the Raymar is awesome.
Raymar is such a nice guy.
Yeah.
So, I feel like, when I talked to him, because I sound like the old guy compared to him. I think he just turned like 29 or something.
Super young, yeah.
But I refer to him like as like a kid,
Yeah.
But such a nice guy. I got involved actually with his. He has a Discord, and it's kind of just set up for people like other creators, kind of like just hang and chat.
Yeah.
And we've chatted and talked in there, and so I really dig like the Ghostman stuff, and which like flattering. It's weird to me because I actually had shared some stuff like back in 2024 when I was first like starting on Start Your Engines. I'd share some stuff, and he's like, "Oh man, you had a fan then." I was like, "You know me, man." But it was cool. So he did a really cool pinup that could be featured because I think about the formatting of the book all the way, and I'm gonna have a nice divider page. So I'm gonna have like a chapter 2 thing, but on the other side, I'm already planned like that pinup's gonna be right on this inside page, or maybe on the other side. I haven't fully figured out where I'm gonna place it, but it's gonna be right in that middle divider between these 2 stories.
Now, I'm a sucker for process stuff. Is there going to be any sketches in there or making
Oh
up
yeah,
type of stuff?
some thumbnails, character designs, and also I mentioned Invincible. One of the things I liked about the trade paperbacks, and at the back of all the trade paperbacks, it was well, Ryan, and there was ones with Corey, but Kirkman and whoever was the artist on that in that trade, they would like kind of had like behind the scenes like talk, so I kind of want to do something similar to that and talk about different pages or maybe certain things. I have a few sketches, like some characters that didn't make it into the book because originally the book was going to be one thing, and it was going to be, if it felt like more drama. Maybe I was watching too much Ford versus Ferrari, and I really love that movie, but I was too focused on one thing, and I was like, I shared it with a friend, and I was like, man, you have a lot of kind of Saturday morning cartoon vibes with it, but you're not pushing that enough. I think that's the more fun thing. And one of the things I usually talk about is like, oh man, I just want to do something fun. I just want to have fun, a fun book, nothing like, that you have to really like think about or are trying to be like, or really thought provoking. I just want to make something fun. He was like, my friend was telling me, well, you mentioned all that. This version doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And it's always, I always like share people because, between Dave, this is a different friend, but like I usually share stuff with Dave because we actually live not too far together, and he was pretty much saying the same thing, or was giving. He's like, well, if you could go this direction, you should do this, but I don't think it's as fun as it could be.
It's nice having those people that you trust to kind of be a sounding board, when you're working on a project like this.
Oh, for sure. That's like but Dave is a writer. He's worn a bunch of different hats between being an editor, writer. He doesn't draw really anymore, but actually he's just starting to dip his toe back in. But he is an artist.
Nice.
Colorist, letterer. He's worn all these hats. And I'll talk about Sean, our letterer, too, in a second, because Sean's very similar in that aspect of wearing different hats. But with Dave, we worked together on The Loose End, which came out through Titan. And, because he lives so close, it's so great to have these interactions, and we talk about the projects we're working on. And kind of like what I was talking about before, when I would say something, about Start Your Engines, at least that first version, he'd give me his feedback. And the same goes for if we were like, if he was thinking about working on something at the same time. And I kind of appreciate that. And especially because like having a different opinion really is going to only make it better.
Yeah.
I don't always have to take advice, if you don't, like in life, you don't have to listen to everything, but when you start hearing maybe the same feedback or a kernel of the same feedback in, say yes, 3 people for feedback on something, and each one gives something maybe subtly different, but there's that one connecting thing in there. Well, maybe that's what I should look at. Maybe that's the one I should definitely change.
For sure. Yeah. If it's being echoed across multiple different people from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Now, with this book, you said you've been chipping away at it since 2024. About how far along are you on it?
Oh, so it's the 2 stories. The first story was finished like early 2025.
Okay.
But work was coming in, so I didn't start on the second story until recently.
Okay.
And I because all the colors were done, everything was done except lettering. So I started up the second story, and the second story is pretty much I have a few more to ink, but then we're going to move on to colors. But part of the Kickstarter is to help me pay for the lettering. Besides the printing, of course, lettering, and I'm going to have someone assist me probably with some colors just to kind of expedite things. So that's kind of why I'm doing the campaign now. And the delivery timeline that I have set forth is January 2027.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so people won't be waiting like a year for to get the book into their hands.
Oh no, yeah, no, I didn't want people to wait, and especially like I kind of regretted mentioning the 2024, but I'm very transparent of these things, and that was more so like just work coming in, and why set up the Kickstarter now? Like I know I'm gonna have it done, fairly soon.
Yeah.
So that was just something like that I just wanted to get done. And so I set the time. I was like, I can't just, like I was talking about earlier, I have to get this out. I want my own creator book out.
Well, and we said how crazy you were at the beginning taking on all these different tasks, but it sounds like you were smart in hiring a letterer to help you.
Oh yeah. So Sean and I worked on other books before. He's been my editor on books. He's, actually, on my editor on books. I don't think I worked on a story he's written yet, but he also lettered a bunch of my work. So we had the understanding. I really appreciate the creators who have worn those. I can't keep going back and keep talking about it, but I really do appreciate the people who worked in different disciplines. It really I think it brings a lot to the table. And you talked about, I guess when I brought Dave up about trust and working with creators, and that's one of the things like I really trust both of these people with helping me. If I was trying, one of the reasons I probably haven't had a colorist, I haven't found that colorist yet who's exactly where I want, because I will say I'm a control freak, but it's fine with the lettering. I think because I trust Sean in that aspect. In terms of writing, Dave has helped me as an editor with the writing. I think Dave writes great dialogue. If anyone wants to check out the Loose End, that we worked on Titan, there's a trade paperback out. Here's some great dialogue. It's a love letter to like 90s Miramax films like Crime, very Tarantino, it kind of pokes fun at Hollywood and a lot of those creators at the time. But Dave does such great dialogue, and I was making sure that Dave could help me out with maybe make sure the dialogue sounded like could flow naturally, and also make sure that pacing is on there, besides just not really just him being like a project manager per se, but really having that helping me get the voices right and everything, and that pacing down for these stories.
I was going to ask you earlier, do you have a inherent love of cars? Because doing a story where you have to draw a bunch of vehicles is a lot of times something artists tend to avoid. Does this come from your love of cartoons and Speed Racer and that type of stuff?
More my love for cartoons, but part of the thing with Start Your Engines, I was going to be that thing where, yes, this is something I want to do, or the kind of stories I want to tell, but I also wanted this to be a showcase of me as an artist and a writer. So I was like, what can I do to try and challenge myself as well? And one of the things was actually drawing vehicles.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff I had drawn before, I drew some vehicles in there, but I wanted to draw vehicles in motion. I wanted to try and challenge myself with drawing them in motion. I've drawn creatures before. I wanted to draw more dinosaurs and work on that. I also when I'm drawing, if be very honest, I was the way I was drawing female characters, I was it's very clunky. And I was trying to work on that more too. So I was cherry picking different things to kind of work at and see what I can improve on. Maybe the last thing I wanted to make sure that I always feel I'm good with storytelling, but I wanted to make sure the storytelling in the composition, in both stories, was as high as I can make it. Because I mentioned before, graphic design, what's one of the more important things is thinking the project all the way through. In making comics, I think one of the most important things is storytelling.
Yeah.
You can have your foundations, your drawing, your perspective, your anatomy. You can have all that. That's great. But if you can't put it all together and tell that story visually, then it doesn't really come all together. It doesn't come together. It's not going to engage the reader.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's not everything's going to connect if you don't have that. So as we start to get close to the end here, Travis, I wanted to ask you, who are some of your artistic influences, creators that you really look to and get inspired by? I mean, there's no shortage of them out there. I know you mentioned Toth and you've thrown out some names, but who are you currently looking at and you kind of get your juices flowing and get you inspired?
Well, I would still say I had to say Phil Hester as well. Even before I worked with him, I have like a folder on my multiple computers. He does great compositions in his work. He also has a great balance. Is very high contrast, and that's kind of where I like to in my work now is high contrast. And his style and composition is kind of what I kind of aspire to. Even after inking him, I kind of things click differently now, and understanding how he balances positive and negative space. His work is very Mignola meets Jack Kirby with like a dash of Will Eisner.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of thrown in. So, just the way he balances the composition, that the like where you would put your black ink and everything is just so well done. It really has helped me out. Another artist right now that I've been kind of looking back I've been going back and looking at Mike Parobeck with like Batman Adventures, JSA. Fortunately, he passed away in the 90s. But I've been going back and looking at a lot of his older work and the JSA work. The Fly, which I don't know if you remember, like Archie Comics had like their superhero titles that they were putting out in the early 90s, and one of them was like The Fly. And I can't think of the writer's name off the top of my head, but I think it was the same writer on JSA at the time. And I also look at his Batman Adventures stuff, which it's was much more like the cartoon, but the way I can't think of the inker right now either. But the way that his line work was, or the way the line his pencils were inked, I've been trying to kind of emulate that into my own work currently, especially like in the second story for Start Your Engines.
Very cool, man. I can't wait to check it out. I want to give you a spotlight here to let everybody know where to follow you, best places to keep track. And we already touched on it earlier, but when the Kickstarter's starting, where to back it, where to sign up for the pre-launch, all that good stuff. Travis, the stage is yours, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, Travis_Hymel, Hymel. You can find the same on Twitter. You can go to Kickstarter.com and search Start Your Engines. It should pop right up. I also have if you go to Substack, I have a Substack. Just search Travis Hymel, Hymel. You can find me there. But just going back to Start Your Engines real quick, we're currently in pre-launch right now. We're recording on the 3rd of July right now. But if you're just listening or watching this now, you can probably get this maybe. Well, you know what? I'm getting tongue-tied here. What was I going to say?
I think we might be, when this comes out, we may be right about when you're launching the campaign. So, I think we might be right July, in the sweet spot. Yeah, because you know what? I'm going to release this one on July 13th. So that'll be perfect.
We'll scratch that. I'm rambling anyway. It was July 14th. Everyone just go July 14th. The Start Your Engine comes out July 14th. I'm going to release it, I think 10 a.m. Mountain Time. I'm gonna have books like the print versions of the book, cover A, cover B. There may be a slight surprise on launch day as well. But there's great early bird specials where it's going to be a lower price than the initial run will be. Also, to go back to about, I was mentioning Greg and Fake for the variant, it's going to be limited to 100 copies. So just keep that in mind. I will have a bunch of original art tiers. So not just like some commissions. I have some pages from things that I've worked on that I don't have a web store, which I am kicking myself. But this would be a great place to go and buy that if you have any interest in any of the Legend of Vox Machina's pages I have, or I have I'm gonna have a couple Ninja Turtle covers. I think maybe one I'm gonna put on there, as long as also with some Trailer Park Boys original art that's gonna be on there, and maybe a few more surprises original art wise.
Awesome, man. So many goodies, so much cool stuff for people to grab up. Travis, man, it was an absolute pleasure to hang out with you today, bro.
I think, man, you're too kind. You're too kind. I really appreciate this and having me on.
My pleasure, and I'd love to have you back on after the Kickstarter is successful. I know it will be, and we'll catch up and talk about how the whole process was. Hopefully you don't pull out too much of your hair, because I know some people like to wait till the very last couple of days to back. So, you know how we were talking about the gray hairs before we got on? There might be a few more of them when we get back on.
I was going to bring that up. Because before we were recording, I was talking about, I'm managing stress, and, I'm already kind of salt and pepper myself. And it's like, I joked earlier today that I'm probably by the end of this campaign, I'm going to be like full white. Like went through all the trauma, and just go full white. So yeah, maybe next time I'm on here, you'll have a more grizzled Travis Hymel.
Old man Travis, like old man Logan.
I'm gonna have to probably start shaving. Actually, not to keep this going, but like when I was younger in my 20s, the only reason I grew out a beard is because I had a baby face.
Yeah,
and I still do. If I shaved, I instantly look much younger. The salt and pepper don't help. Like the gray hairs don't help anymore. But like that was the thing when I was at a retail job. They used to have this thing called like secret shoppers for people who aren't familiar. But on the little form, they would let you know how you do, but they would also guess your age. And it was like mid-20s, and it said something like 18. I was like, I am a man. I'm a big boy.
Gotta keep that beard, man.
Yeah. So I might, if I do come back and I'm all gray, I might have to shave to look younger for you.
No way, bro. Lean into it. You have that. That's all earned, man. This is all wisdom here. Awesome, bud. Well, listen, hang out with me here for a moment. Everybody, make sure you go check out the Kickstarter. Back it. Sounds like there's all sorts of awesome tiers and perks. If you want to support the podcast and get a little extra goodies, you can visit patreon.com/nerdymusings. Members get episodes 48 hours early on there. You get your name mentioned in the podcast, which is a great segue into mentioning Mr. Brandon Paul, B. Paul Art on Instagram. Check out his book, The Adventures of Chuck Maxwell. We got Michael Gardner on there. It's me, Mike G. If you want to join them in getting each week's episode 48 hours early, it's only $5 a month to be a member. Head on over there. And in the meantime, everybody, keep it nerdy.